Okay. All right. So overfishing, is it ethical or not? By Isabella, Anai, Lauren, and Honey. So our research question is, how does overfishing affect marine ecosystems and biodiversity, and what are the long-term ecological consequences? Overfishing is a significant threat to marine ecosystems and biodiversity, and it can have severe long-term ecological consequences. Overfishing typically focuses on commercially valuable species such as tuna, cod, and shrimp. Excessive fishing can deplete these populations, leading to smaller fish and reducing the overall size and age structure of the fish populations. This not only affects the targeted species, but can also disrupt the predator prey dynamics in the ecosystem. Removing a significant portion of the particular species from an ecosystem can disrupt the natural food web. Overfishing can lead to the proliferation of prey species and the decline of predator species, affecting the balance and health of the entire ecosystem. To prevent the long-term consequences of overfishing, sustainable fishing practices, well-enforced regulations, and the establishment of marine protected areas are essential. These measures can help protect marine biodiversity and ensure the long-term health and sustainability of marine ecosystems. The historical context. Below is a graph that represents 5 centuries of cod catches in eastern Canada. Using this data from countries that had the economic capacity to have statistical records that date back to the 1500s, we can see that fish catch started to increase from around 1700 through the mid 20th century. It peaked in 1968 before a collapse in fish stocks that led to a dramatic decline. Fisheries were forced to close 24 years later in the early 1990s. Using this historical context, we can conclude that overfishing has been an issue for a significant amount of time.
Economic pros. Food security. The overfishing industry provides a source of protein for many people around the world. A reliable source of fish creates healthy and well-being communities. Employment. Overfishing creates jobs for many people, like positions of fishermen, fish processing, packaging, and distribution. Exports and trade. Countries rely on overfishing as a source of export revenue. The export of fish and seafood also contributes to international trade, growing the nation's economic activity. Tourism attracts tourists interested in learning about the fishing industry. Economic cons. Reduced catch and lower revenue. Overfishing leads to draining fish stocks, so each catch begins to get smaller, creating lower revenue in the food industry, affecting the income of fishermen and other businesses related to this. Job losses. As the catches begin to grow smaller each time, many fishermen will begin to lose their jobs as many communities can depend on fishing for employment. Market instability. There is uncertainty in the availability and pricing of seafood. As the changes of how good these fishermen catches are, it can lead to the rise of seafood, or their costs can grow lower if the catches are good. This affects both producers and consumers in the seafood market. Loss of tourism revenue. As overfishing can destroy and negatively impact ecosystems, it can reduce the attractiveness of the oceans to tourists, as many places rely on tourism as revenue.
Social pros. So one of the social pros is employment opportunity. The fishing industry is a significant source of employment for many communities. Overfishing in the short term can create job opportunities and support livelihoods of those involved in the industry. But hence the term short term, which brings us to our next pro, which is short term gain. Overfishing can lead to increased catches and profit in the short term. This can benefit the economies of fishing communities, creating jobs and supporting local businesses involved with the fishing industry. Social cons. One of the biggest social cons is going to be social injustice. Overfishing can exacerbate social inequalities, as large-scale commercial fishing operations often have more resources and technological capabilities, leaving the small-scale and subsistence fishers at a disadvantage. This also directly impacts our Indigenous and local communities, because a lot of Indigenous communities often have deep cultural and economic connections to fishing. Overfishing can disrupt these communities, affecting their traditional ways of life and their cultural practices. Lastly, jobs and living. Overfishing can ultimately lead to a loss of jobs and livelihoods in the fishing communities as the fish stocks decline. This can have a profound social and economic impact on the well being of those depending on fishing for their income or their consumption.
Psychological pros. Overfishing can combat the psychological effects of food insecurity. Because overfishing provides fish to people globally, it helps alleviate the effects of food insecurity. Food insecurity increases rates of mental health problems and depression with a decrease in nutrient intake. Psychological cons. Mental health concerns for fishermen. As overfishing continues, there's a steep drop in the supply of fish. The results of overfishing correlates with the higher rates of fishermen who work at fisheries, and these fishermen have higher rates of anxiety, depression, and substance abuse. Concerns with climate equity. Climate equity centers around the idea that climate change brings burdens that are unequal to certain communities. Overfishing can take away jobs for people who work at fisheries where people depend on healthy fish populations to build their coastal economies.
Some physical pros of overfishing would be an increase in product. Overfishing can create an increase in the production of seafood to be able to be distributed and put on the market for big food chain companies. There could also be a rise in profit. This action is also convenient for fishermen, allowing them to receive profit, creating a desire to continuously fish as it is convenient for them. It also provides entertainment. People use the action of fishing as not only a hobby, but as a sport as well, creating space for entertainment and allowing people to relieve stress. Some physical cons would be the impact on food chains. Overfishing can also create an impact on the biodiversity of species across the ecosystem with unforeseen and negative impacts. It also affects the habitat. Certain fishing methods, such as trawling, have been found to physically harm marine environments, including the seafloor and coral reefs.
Next, we're going to talk about the meme that we chose. So for the meme, we chose to talk about to show Patrick Starr saying that there's plenty of fish left in the sea and that we're overfishing them. So for this poem, it shows how like different rhetorical devices can help us understand the severity of overfishing.
For irony, this meme uses irony through the common saying there's plenty of fish in the sea, but in reality, there's not. Overfishing is a complicated problem with serious negative effects on the environment, economy, and society. It has caused an immense amount of damage to the depletion of fish stocks, distribution of or disruption in the marine ecosystem, and a loss of biodiversity. Soon we will have no more fish to eat, see, or even relate to the saying, there's plenty of fish in the sea. As seen in the meme, we must take action and be vocal like Patrick and spread awareness of this overfishing issue that we're facing.
As for the tone created through visuals in the caption of the meme is frustration. Through the image, we see two visuals of Patrick showing his anger through his hands and facial expressions. In the background, we see how the audience is demonstrating a shocked appearance. This meme perpetuates the reaction of people as they are surprised to learn about the rising problem. As Patrick stated this matter in a frustrated tone, he showed the importance of shining light on this issue that most people might not know about.
Illusion. This meme uses illusion through Patrick, a main character in the popular show SpongeBob SquarePants. He is a character that shows great emotion when frustrated, so it makes the problem of overfishing in the meme seen through him as something huge. As stated before in the meme, a common phrase is used, there's plenty of fish in the sea. This also adds a lot to the illusion to the meme, as the meaning of this saying is a person still has options for future partners, but with the continuous overfishing we have, Patrick will grow into a bigger panic, and that saying will no longer be true. The purpose and the audience. The targeted audience is anyone who goes fishing or goes overfishing. This can bring awareness to those who may not understand the effects of catching more fish that are being reproduced. Some fishers may not realize they have a direct impact on the extinction of some breeds of fish, or that they are disturbing the food chain. Sharing this can bring precaution and inform fishers to either catch a proper amount of fish or to catch and release fish if it is for sport. With the SpongeBob meme, we can humorously approach this to get the attention of an audience who typically is less aware, like younger generations or entertainment attracted people.
Okay, and so for our poem, we chose a poem by Camille T. Dungy, and it's called A Massive Dying Off. It reads, when the fish began dying, you didn't worry. You bought new shoes, and they looked like crocodiles, snappy and rich, brown as Delta mud. Even the box they shipped in was beautiful, bejeweled. You tore through masses of swaddling paper. These shoes, carefully crated in all that cardboard by what you now understand must have been someone's tiny, indifferent hands. The five-fingered sea stars you near about on NPR, you must have been driving to Costco. It must have been before all the visitors arrived. You needed covers, pillows, disposable containers. At Costco, everything comes cheap. Sea stars, jellies, anemones, and all the scuttlers and hoverers and clingers along the ocean floor. A massive dying off, further displacing depleted oxygen, cried the radio announcer. You plugged in your iPod. Enough talk. You'd found the song you'd been searching for. One cargo ship going out, one cargo ship coming in. Crabs crawling up the trawler lines, giant lobsters walking right onto the shore. You've been sitting in your car watching the sunset over the Golden Gate. NPR again. One cargo ship going out, one cargo ship going in. Those are leaving. The Marin headlands crouched towards the ocean, fog so thick on the side of the bay, you can't tell the crag from the clouds from the sea. One cargo ship headed out, another coming in. They're looking for a place where they can breathe. You've been here less than an hour. When the sun has finished setting, you'll go home. In the dream, your father refuses to wash ashore. This wasn't what you wanted, any of you. Of trouble was the bottle with the message that washed up years ago. The first sign. Then so many bottles. The stenographs couldn't answer all your messages anymore. The women of the villages wept when your father died. Then they lined up to deliver tear-stained tissues to the Secretary of the Interior, who translated their meaning and had written out on a scroll. These were the answers your people had been waiting for. The papyrus wound around your finger like a bandage. The occasional announced, your prayers are proper prayers, loaded onto out-triggered, but here he is again, stinking. You can't dispose of the rising dead, and you're worried. What can you do? So in this poem, we explained how it's centered around the severity of climate change and the disconnect that humans have from reality. Not only does Dungy's tone reflect how critical climate change is, but it also shows how we, the readers, are in grave danger if we continue to ignore the issues at hand when it comes to climate change. She shows different ways that humans we have are being greedy, ignored, and an ongoing problem. Towards the end of the poem, she even creates a comparison of a human being killed. I has been entangled around him about the overfishing and the pollution found in our ocean. Dungy wants the same goal we have, which is to bring an end to the mass death of our beloved sea creatures.
Our call to action. Throughout the research project process, we have learned and informed about the ongoing effects of overfishing. We have viewed overfishing as a negative appeal to life and environment, but have also found certain ideas that support overfishing. As a result of these actions, we want to protect the health of marine life, ecosystems, and well-being of populations that depend on them. Preventing overfishing necessitates effective management, the enforcement and reform of fishing laws, and the encouragement of environmentally friendly fishing methods. Here are work citing, and this concludes our presentation.